I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today. And today I'd like to do a real quick video. I'm going to share with y'all some of my tools that I use for flint knapping. And these here are just flakes that I found along creek banks and hiking through the woods and different places that I go. And usually I, get a pocket full of stones and bring them home and try to work them down and see what I can come up with. And this right here is what I use for a bopper. This is copper. It's about a 1 pound copper bopper. And I usually use this for the bigger rocks to work it down into the flakes. And these are just some brass rods. I used to do a little bit of injection molding, and these were tools that I had for digging out hot plastics. That they always had to be brass, that way they wouldn't hurt the molds, because some of the molds were a couple $100,000, so it would be pretty bad to start prying on a couple $100,000 mold with a metal object and nick it up or anything. So we always had to use brass, so I still had some of these old brass tools that I made when I did injection molding. And these smaller ones here are what I use for pressure flaking, for working the final edge down on, like this right here, for working the final edges down on the arrowheads. This is just one of the ones that I've done. It's not real pretty, but they're fun to experiment with and try to see what you can come up with. And this other here is a little bit of tools that I work with also. This one right here is it's a brass bopper. It's a little smaller, and it maybe weighs a quarter of a pound. And these are just some other pieces. Some of these all of these here in this box here are pieces that I've been working on. I got some little flakes and a couple that I've done like this, and of course if you watch my saw blade video, flint knapping a saw blade, you'll see me make this. And these are some other examples of a little saw. And I use different pieces of leather sometimes to work with. A lot of times you'll see me using this here. I've had some questions and comments to what this was. This is just a kind of a semi-hard foam pad. This was just happened to be a packaging material for a hood from a truck. It came in a box. It kept the edges from denting, so it seems to work out pretty good. You don't have to spend money on your tools or your supplies that you work with. A lot of times you can just improvise and make your own, or use pieces of I would suggest, if you need a piece of leather, looking at a yard sale and finding an old leather woman's purse. A lot of times you can cut the seams out and get you some pieces of leather that you can use for other odds and ends. A lot of times I'll lay this down over my knee. That way I don't drive the splinters into my knee. And I use this. This is a sanding pad. A lot of times when you get real sharp edges, you want to kind of smooth out the edges before you work it down. That way it'll break off the flakes a little better. And I don't use anything fancy. Like I said, you can improvise and come up with your own tools. I'd be interested in knowing what you all are using for tools, or maybe what you use to make yourself a tool, or if you bought some somewhere, what type of tools you have or where you got it. Feel free to leave any comments or questions below, and if you feel like sharing information where you found good deals on tools, feel free to post it below. That way other people interested in getting started will have some place to look, or at least a general idea of where to start looking. Or, like I said, you can always make your own like I did. Real quick, also, I'd like to share with y'all A lot of times when I'm walking the creek banks, I mean, you can see right here, these are a bunch of different fossils. This particular piece right here is a piece of horn coral, and I find a lot of horn coral, and like pieces like this that's got holes in them. A lot of people around here refer them to Indian money, because back in the olden days Indians used to make beads and stuff out of some of these, and they also used to trade these for stuff. See if I can. But it's pretty interesting to, you know, just walk along creek banks and stuff, and just take a little time and look around and, you know, see what you can find. I mean, because really and truly, you never know what you're gonna find. You might find a big chunk of rock that has a fossil or a bone or something in it. But you can see all the little pieces. They come in many shapes and sizes. And these are pretty common around the Tennessee valleys where I live. I mean, you don't see them all the time, and you really have to look to find them, and sometimes you can look for an entire day, and that might be all you find for a day's worth of looking. But some days you might hit the jackpot and find a half a bucket full. You know, it's when the rains come through and the rivers flood and washes the sand and the dirt and stuff down, and it moves the rocks, and so pretty much every time that you go hunting after it's rained and the water subsides a little bit, it's all new territory for hunting grounds. So I mean, this is just another fun thing that my wife and my daughter and I enjoy doing. It gives us a little something, you know, that we can share a common interest in, and we all enjoy getting out and looking to see what we can find, and it may offer y'all, you know, an opportunity to connect with maybe a certain member of your family, just getting out and enjoying nature, and, you know, walking the creek beds and seeing maybe if you can find some flakes to work with, if you want to try flint napping or get into flint napping, or maybe you're just not interested. But even still, it's a great way to spend your time, and it's a great way to spend some time with your family. But I just wanted to share this with y'all. I figured I'd share some of the tools that I use. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. These are just brass rods that I use. They were old tools that I had that I made into new tools. And like I said, you don't have to spend a whole lot to try to get into this. I mean, most of the stuff, it's just scraps or stuff that you can make yourself. I'd just like to remind everybody to cherish your friends and your family, because what you have today might not be here tomorrow. Y'all take care, be safe, and God bless. Thanks for watching.